Today's episode is Seeking Courage, another tool to use along with this month's theme of embracing that you are enough. For a lot of the resources that we discuss, you can find them on my site at buildriseandthrive.com. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media, Instagram and Twitter, and Facebook at Build, Rise, Thrive. For the latest updates, all of that information you can find in the description below. And with that, welcome to Cloud Thrive. I'm DaiJuan, certified and trained life coach. And again, thanks for joining me here on Cloud Thrive. I'm excited that you're joining this amazing community of thrivers as we continue this partnership of inviting change and continuing to strive, making the commitment and investment to move closer toward our success. Coaching, most definitely, as I just said, is an investment in ourselves. So, with that, I wanted to open this platform up to a community so that we have the ability to support one another. This is no different than a group session that we would most definitely have in a space, a safe space, where we could support one another throughout the process of thinking and peeling back the layers of allowing ourselves to find clarity. So, in this space, there are no wrong answers. Working through some of the most challenging roadblocks together, we'll have the opportunity to dive into a conversation where you guys drive that conversation. I'll have the opportunity to introduce new strategies. We'll be able to have in-depth conversation that may invoke deeper thought that will continue to support you guys in finding that clarity that's needed, or just identifying the next steps that you guys need to find that understanding that's needed toward reaching your next goal. Well, with that being said, you will always leave the podcast with a sense of strong foundation, clear intention, and the tools needed to move forward with courage and confidence. So, with that said, there are always going to be 4 things that we will most definitely do at the end of every podcast or every interaction that you have with me. That's be real, stay on target, push through with a clear mind, but most of all, never give up until we reach the top, or at least until we reach our next goal. Remember, your choices are your own. If I can, let's catch up for a bit, all right? So, I know our 2 topics for catching up haven't changed, and I don't plan on them to until, you know, we we're in a space where we truly can move on from these 2 areas. But the 2 that we're going to cover is COVID and social justice. I want to touch on COVID first. It looks like that we are moving in the right direction, but what I can say is keep up the great work. I know a lot of states have put in a lot of work and a lot of effort to really keep the numbers down. A lot of frontline workers and a lot of back end workers and administrative workers, you guys are doing a great job of supporting our frontline staff, our doctors, our nurses, our billing and coding staff, everybody who works in any and every capacity to keep our cities and our states moving. You matter, and you guys keep up the great work. I can't say it enough. For those of you guys affected, we will get through this together. As long as we keep working together, as long as we keep supporting one another, we will get through this. And I want to send well wishes and a speedy recovery to any of you guys who are affected by this. I know I do have family members who have contracted COVID, and it is not an easy fight. I personally am supporting the efforts here in Washington, D.C., and I do see how it is affecting people and their families. It is a rippling effect. So again, I'm so grateful to a lot of the work that is going into this. So keep up the great work. With that, stay cautious. I know there are spikes in some areas, so continue to watch out for our neighbors, for our elderly, for those a part of vulnerable populations. If you can support them in safe ways, please do that. If you can have groceries sent, if they do need a few dollars and you have it to spare, support what you can. I think in those areas, that's how we get through this together. Now, to shift gears and move into social justice. Our country is continuing to hurt. And I don't just mean it in one or two areas. I truly mean that our country is hurting in so many ways. But we are beginning to be heard. And with that, we do feel that impact. Systems will change. I don't mean might, I don't mean may. They will. But what that means is that listening to a lot of you, I hear it. From my kids, I feel it. A lot of us are seeking courage. We're trying to figure out, where do we play that role? Where can we lift our voice? The protest, they'll continue. And we're starting to see that. We're starting to see more of that. We're starting to see that push. A push for power in places that need more diversity. And we want to continue to empower that. This has gone well beyond the US. This has gone well beyond our police departments. And what I can say for our police departments is they are now in the spotlight. They are now in a space of conflict. And the question that they are now forced to be answering is, where do they stand? Because the police departments are made up of our family members, of our friends. Where do they stand? We can say one officer is good, and I don't believe anybody is against a department as a whole, but we are against bad officers. And more times than not, our police departments are meant to do more than they should. And we have other bodies who can step in and truly support the way they are meant to. Our police departments are not doctors, they are not therapists, they are not pet control. And yet, we call them for these functions. I'd like that to be where we begin to transition this conversation. But those are things to think about. And again, there are no wrong answers, so opinions are always welcome. But that leads us into our discussion today of seeking courage. And as we go into this first topic, we're going to be discussing what approaching our breakthroughs feel like. Okay? Because I think that's truly important in today's space. All right. So we have about what? We have this week, next week, and we have a couple days in the following week left in June. And with June's theme being, you are enough. I want to carry over where the tones of conversations have been from a lot of my clients. And yes, I've asked, and they've all consented that we can at least share the tone of the conversation on the podcast. And I think it's fair to say that a lot of you are asking, what do I do during this time, today, tomorrow, a year from now, 6 months from now, next week? What do I do? What can I do? Where's my place? I think those are all great questions. And it is a challenge to ask those questions when this is new for this generation. This is new for those of us who have never truly experienced a paradigm shift this large. If I can, I'd like for us to continue peeling back the layers for the rest of June before we shift into next month's. And I'll share next month's theme or July's theme next week. So, without the bells and whistles and the dog and pony show, what does approaching your breakthrough feel like? I know we've talked a lot about changing habits and, just being our true selves and having our whole selves accepted, going into work and having to be part of ourselves or not share who we truly are, or determining who is around us, we can't be ourselves, or you you know I want to be this person. What does that look like? What do those experiences feel like? Who am I supposed to be? There's so many questions there. And it's okay to allow self discovery, because in order for you to be authentically yourself, we have to allow time for us to simply pull back and ask that question of, well, where does our reality lie? No matter where I am, where I'm going, do these things change? And the same applies for achieving a goal. Who am I now? Who do I want to be? Or what does the best version of myself look like? And what must happen in order for me to achieve that? Those are all very interesting questions. And you don't have to share them with the world, depending on who you are. And sometimes it can be a bit daunting to do this in a group or to sit around a circle and share. I mean, that means that we have to be vulnerable. That means we have to build trust with that person, or whomever you're doing this activity with. And if there is no trust, then why share? But if we are in this platform, then in your own safe space, you can do that. You can visualize it. And one thing that I love doing is getting to know how people love to learn. It's never just one way. It's never one way. And it amazes me to sit and just listen and to watch how the mind works, the nonverbals. We took some time to discuss introducing new habits. And a lot of you took the opportunity to identify what your daily routine was. And we walked through the appreciation method. And really, for yourself, that did a lot of great, because as you approach success, you get to this point of, there's something I'm missing. There's something I'm missing. I don't feel it just yet. And that's okay. That's okay. Everybody's feeling of success is not going to be the same. You are unique. And that's the beauty in this. But you took time to visualize your routine. You integrated what you knew to be the habits you needed to further your success or further the steps on this journey towards success. And what we then did was we took the opportunity to say, as we identified and visualized your habits, was to say, okay, which of these habits no longer serve a purpose? Or which of these habits have already served their purpose and I have now learned, I have now gained what I needed to. I have now understood and things have come full circle. So this activity or this habit no longer needs to be a part of my daily routine. However, it's still in my tool belt. It's still in my toolkit. I can use this when needed. It's still there. So we don't want to forget it. So even if that means you need a journal or, whatever way you learn, whatever that looks like, take the opportunity to keep that in the back pocket. And as we talked about preparing our whole selves, we then started to remove or relocate how people functioned around us. We started becoming more intentional about how people interacted with us. We knew what our path looked like because we knew ourselves. We became more clear with ourselves. We began to know what the end goal looked like. And we knew that on this road, certain people can't walk this with us. And it's not a negative feeling. Sometimes it's this person has taught me so much. And I have learned da 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 A B C D E F G. And now I've grown. And it could have been a symbiotic relationship. You both have learned something. You both have gained in this space. It's beautiful. And that doesn't mean that you no longer can communicate. It no longer means you both can no longer interact with one another. It just means that this friendship or the way that you all have interacted now has to shift or evolve and it has to change or can change. That's completely up to you. Whatever makes sense to you. Also, in that space, it's really taking the opportunity to identify your next steps. This is an investment. Moving forward in this breakthrough, you're preparing for this chapter, this next space. It's an investment. It's no different than buying a car, buying a house. It's a big purchase, not with money, but with your life. And you value your life like we value money. It's worth a lot. You are priceless. You are worth so much. You are your greatest asset. And with that being known, we have to prepare to take care of it. So let's look at that. We've taken the opportunity to really be intentional about our space, about those we interact with. Again, none of this is required, but these are all tools. If you find it necessary to do within the space that you're in or within the goals that you'd like to achieve, then you're on the road. You're ready. And this next piece is the same way you invest and you show up and show out for your friends, your family, your spouse, your pets, whomever. It's time to show out for yourself. You go to that housewarming and you buy the best gift for your friend or your family or your auntie or your uncle. Do the same thing for yourself. You celebrate that because now you can truly look back and say, oh my God, look at how far I have come. Look at how far I have come. There are tangibles here. 6 months ago, I started here. I am now here. I wasn't able to manage at this capacity, but now I am here. You've now begun to identify that maybe you didn't have the courage to speak up in certain spaces, but now you do. It's a beautiful thing. Now that you've started to identify where your strengths are, where your superpowers are, it's a beautiful thing because now you're tuned into yourself. You've made that investment in yourself and you've hit that stride. Now you understand your lane. You're now no longer doing what other people want you to do. You're now starting to shift lanes. You're starting to be more intentional about where you can best invest your time, your energy, and it's a wonderful feeling. So that helps us to move into this next space of not being mute in spaces where your voice needs to be heard. Having and needing the courage. Because as we seek courage sometimes, it can be truly difficult. It most definitely can. Because what areas in your life is your voice mute? And why? Have you had prior negative experiences? Are there positive experiences that maybe you aren't too sure about? Having the opportunity to truly separate your facts from feelings in this space would be amazing. Why are you mute in spaces where your voice can be heard? Is there somebody who makes you feel that way? Why do they make you feel that way? It's a challenge. It most definitely could be a challenge. And it's an exciting feeling sometimes in that space when you're uncomfortable, but that's when you know that you're on the right track of that breakthrough. When you're being challenged, you're being pushed, you're being prepared, most definitely. Because breakthroughs do not come easy. They do not come easy. Breakthroughs happen when you are being pushed, when you are uncomfortable, And you start feeling like, well, why is it that no one wants me to succeed? And the sentiment I understand from you all as you have shared this with me, and I have gained clarity, is that you have made quite a lot of sacrifices. And I'll admit, I have as well. I can share that, yes, I, in a lot of the spaces where I have gained and achieved great breakthroughs, I've had to sacrifice a lot. I have been challenged and pushed a lot. It's not a great feeling until after the storm and you begin to peel back why it was happening. Because that chapter that we're preparing to walk into, well, life knows that you're going to be ready for it when you get there. So, with that, I think that takes us into the next space. I think that this is a great opportunity for us to transition. So, as we continue our conversation and we are continuing to seek courage and remain empowered, I want to just let you guys know that reaching success is not impossible. That road is a winding one, and we will continue to learn and allow these teachable moments while we know that we must continue to invest in ourselves and we must find out our own purposes for pursuing the goals that we choose to pursue. I want to share with you guys the reason for today's episode. A listener has shared their story, and I have pulled a lot of the personal information out because the person who shared the story has asked for anonymity. But in whole, they're sharing that they feel like a failure. The challenges faced were great and made them feel that they needed to stop. They felt like once they reached a certain point on the road of achieving their goals, they felt like a fraud or they did not belong. They felt like they were ready to learn the lesson that needed to be learned, but with everything happening in the world, things got a bit heavy. Now, I read that a couple times after, of course, pulling out a lot of the personal information, and I want to really be able to provide you guys the space to share and provide support. In the same vein, I don't want to provide advice, but I want to provide the tools needed to dig deep. But I'd like to explore a little bit. So, to this listener, why was this goal so important to achieve in the first place at this moment? Why was this goal the goal you needed to focus on at that moment? And have you visualized or taken the time to really identify what your success would look like at the end of that? Today's episode really centers around seeking courage. And it may not sound like it, but when we really truly focus on achieving a goal, it's easy for us to say, I want to be rich. I want to stand on the world stage. I want that promotion. Those are wants. Yes, those are goals, but those goals don't have plans in place. It takes true courage to say, this is a goal that I will achieve. And here's the plan that will support this goal in becoming achievable. So now this goal has legs. Now this goal is achievable because now we have created action steps that will allow this goal to become a tangible one. When you began this journey, who were you? And how have you developed? Because I'm sure that you are a powerful individual, an amazing individual. How have you developed? Take a moment and look back at how far you've come. And if maybe you're stuck, that's okay. Take a moment to reassess and identify maybe how best do you learn? Are you looking at maybe ways that maybe other people learn? Maybe you know and are using tools that work for other people and they worked for you to this point. Maybe we need to find the best way that works for you. How best do you learn? What's also interesting in this space, or what would probably be a great idea, if I may, is what helps keep you motivated and focused. What has helped you on this journey? Let's visualize that progress. Have you assessed the relationships around you? Do you have that support in place? These are things to look at because I'm not sure how far in your goal you are. That would be a great opportunity for us to really flush through and figure out, where are you? Visualizing your progress, really draw out that roadmap of where we are. What step are we on in this journey? And if we've made it in a good space and maybe again we've hit just a bump in the road, let's try a new approach. Look at this from a new angle. Flip it on its head. it's it's awkward to say, but let's flip it on its head. It's okay to do that. I mean, if we're taking the time to think through things and get comfortable with it, yeah, let's turn things around. If somebody else were doing it, what would they do? If if I don't know, put your idol into that position and how would they achieve this goal? Or how do you believe they would achieve this goal? If there were no limits to you, how would you achieve this goal? If you had limitless money, how would you achieve this goal? Maybe that would open up opportunities for you to talk through some of the challenges you would be facing. Um, there could be a number of opportunities. And what that would do is no, you wouldn't potentially move forward and use any of those ideas, but it could open up spaces where you could start to brainstorm, okay, no, I'm not going to do anything illegal. However, it's helpful to me because now I have a number of other ideas that I could kind of rummage through and I could really think clearer about my next steps. But all of this takes courage because now you're saying, I'm taking a goal and I'm making a plan, and that plan has legs. This is an action. This is no longer just a pie in the sky. So your courage is really at work here. And a part of your transformation toward success, we're going to be faced with those challenges. But if we break this thing down, and oftentimes I know it's crazy, but I have a lot of my clients break their challenges down into the ingredients into their favorite dishes. So I have one who breaks their, and even with my son, like he's not a client, but he's my son. And it's funny with him. So my son loves pizza. And it's like, well, how do you make the pizza? And he's like, dough. And then you use the sauce, and then you use cheese, and then you use the pepperoni. And it's like, what's your problem? Well, this is my problem. Okay, well, what's the biggest part of your problem? Well, da 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 da. All right, well, then that's your dough. Then what's the next part of the pizza? Well, this is the next part of the problem. Okay, well, then that's your sauce. And then this is your cheese. And so, as we're starting to identify each part of the problem is a piece of this dish. And as we're dissecting it, pulling it apart, or putting it together, it becomes more manageable because now he is in control of each piece. And I do the same thing with my clients, and there's so much power in having control over something that they're used to. So we use that as a way to manage a lot of the problems in that space. So, with that, I encourage you to continue pushing, continue investing in yourself. I see that there's power and commitment, and I congratulate you in that space. Keep up the great work. Um, I recommend connecting with me, and maybe we can get together and have a session or two. I would greatly appreciate that, most definitely. Also, I'd say listen to the earlier episodes. They would be greatly, greatly appreciated. And also, I think they would support you in really just identifying really capacity, because it sounds like there may be some capacity adjustments in there where we could really tune in to or refocus where the capacity is. Maybe today I'm not feeling 1,000%, but maybe I'm maybe 100%. I can give you what I have, or maybe I need to manage more for myself and allow self care. That's doable. But that's really, really where I recommend that we move. But to that point, I also want to share with you guys that, again, I was kind of going into it, but then pulled back. There is homework. There is most definitely homework. Um, two, two pieces of homework, really, really light as we move into next week. How do you engage, connect, and influence others? And how do you define success? How do you truly define success? I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. That's truly going to be exciting. And as we continue to wrap up the month of June and identifying that you are enough, this is going to be an amazing conversation. Also, I just want to let you guys know that the gift that I have been sharing with you guys for the month of June is that you are powerful, you are phenomenal, and you are enough. So just all of that bundled up prettily in a box. That's for you guys. As always, thank you for joining me on Cloud Thrive. Again, I'm DaiJuan, and I want you to be left with these three pillars: build strong, rise with intention, and thrive with courage and confidence to be the change you want to see.